Hello, welcome to White Birch Tarot and Astrology. I wasn't going to post tonight because, well, I'm a little tired, and also I was going to do it tomorrow night for the new moon in Sagittarius. This is not the new moon reading, but I discovered an aspect which I had never heard before. I like to learn, and so I was looking things up online, and so I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to do a quick reading with the Kim Kranz archetype cards, and they're really interesting tonight. Anyway, I will timestamp what time I start the cards so that you can skip the astrology. And so anyway, this is the chart for the new moon, actually, because I wanted to see what was going on, and there's a lot going on. We have a very interesting new moon coming up. Very hopeful, I think. But see this red thing here? This is called Thor's hammer. You know, the Norse god Thor always carried that like double-headed hammer thing hanging off his belt. And I guess this would be the handle, and this would be the double-headed thing. But what this is it's a square, 90 degrees, between Chiron in Aries, which I will talk about briefly, Jupiter in Cancer, retrograde. They're both retrograde, by the way. And they are making what is called a sesquiquadrate, which is 135 degrees. They're each doing that to Mercury, who is here in Sagittarius, which is where the new moon's going to be, although he's not conjunct the moon. But anyway, so I looked it up. I thought, well, that's interesting because, you know, Chiron retrograde in Aries. Chiron is the wounded healer, and our basic wounds, our primal wounds, generally happen to us in childhood, and it's squaring Jupiter, who's in the sign that rules childhood and memories and nurturing in the mother, Cancer, and they're both retrograde, which gives them kind of a, you know, kind of a looking into the past aspect. So this is definitely connected to, you know, how we were nurtured, how we were mothered, how are we feeling emotionally, how did that affect our self-identity? Who do we think we are, literally? You know, how did we develop a sense of self, and how was that shaped by our childhoods? I mean, we're all shaped by our childhoods. You don't have to stay there, but it can be difficult to get out. But so I looked it up, and here I'm just going to read briefly what I put on my phone here, because this is a very powerful aspect. So the focal point, the apex, which they refer to in the description, is Mercury here in Sagittarius. When Mercury, which rules our thinking, the way we communicate, and to a certain extent, remember, he's the psychopomp, so he can move between the underworld and this world. And in alchemy, he was the transformative substance. So he's in Sagittarius, which rules philosophy. It's thinking, but it's thinking on a different level than day-to-day thinking. It's about finding meaning, purpose. You know, it's asking why. It's wanting truth with a capital T, if there is such a thing. You know, it's like he wants to know. He's asking questions. He's looking to the future. It's about optimism and growth because it's ruled by Jupiter. So he's at the apex. So let me just read quickly here what I found online. And it's talking about this aspect. Thor's hammer creates instability, power, and a drive for independence or new paths, often triggering intense personal growth, as if we needed more, right? It signifies struggle, strong will, and the potential for significant breakthroughs by forcing unique, adventurous action, unlike gentler patterns. It's inherently uncomfortable, creating inner tension and sensitivity at the apex planet, which is this Mercury. So it's about changing the way we view something, and maybe not like just short term, like, you know, day to day, but like an entire philosophy or a way that we've viewed something for a long time. It's a powerful pattern indicating immense potential, but also demanding hard work and overcoming obstacles. It's often linked to a strong rebellious streak, pushing individuals to forge their own way rather than follow others. In mythology, Thor's hammer symbolizes strength, protection, and overcoming evil mirroring the pattern's potent transformative energy. A Thor's hammer in your chart points to a dynamic, challenging, yet potent area where you're forced to innovate and grow through conflict and immense willpower. So if you know your chart, it would be really interesting to look up where you have 22 degrees of Cancer, 22 degrees of Aries, and 10 degrees of Sagittarius. He's only 1 degree off my moon here. Interesting. Anyway, not my moon, my Venus. Anyway, so this is really interesting. So what I'm thinking is that, well, as I've already talked about, so there's a way that we have viewed our primal wound, which probably came from childhood. And remember, Jupiter brings optimism and growth along with expansion. So your emotions can feel heightened, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, right? Depending on what you're experiencing. But there is always, with Jupiter, there's always the potential for growth and for just that optimism. Jupiter just brings it in. So even though this is a very difficult and challenging aspect, apparently, it's intended for growth, and we're having a lot of growth lately. But I pulled 3 cards, and I think they kind of go with this, I think. So I think this is an opportunity for us to have a quote, higher perspective. I don't like that word, a broader perspective about something, maybe something from the past, something that really hurt us. We get a broader perspective and more optimism, even though it's challenging. It's a challenging thing to think about for sure. Anyway, so let me show you what I drew here, and I'm going to write down the time for those who are interested in the cards. Sorry, I'm so croaky. I'm just dead tired tonight. Okay, and next time I think I'm going to draw the small. I have a small deck of these and a large deck, and I shuffled the large ones, which are really difficult for me because I thought they showed up better on the screen, but actually I think the smaller ones show up better. So anyway, and one of these cards I've never drawn. I've never even seen it. So we start out with Thanatos. And I thought, that sounds like death. And I was right. Doesn't mean you're going to die. Hang on here. So I'm going to read from the book because these descriptions just need. And I'm going to put it on the screen because this book is so small that unless I've got it on the screen, I literally can barely see it. Grieving, mourning, bearing witness to all that is. That's when it's light. When it's dark, fear or insensitivity to old age, illness, or the dying. That really resonates with me. I don't do well with people getting old or ill or dying because it hurts. And I have to admit, I don't do well with those things. So, it says, well, let's see, can I read it here? Yeah. It is tempting to oversimplify death and sum it up as transformation. But the true archetypal resonance of Thanatos cannot be easily assimilated or contained. Death is ongoing and omnipresent, an eternal response to the gift of birth. Witnessing the ending of another being, creature, phase, or stage has deep consequences for the psyche. We are forever changed by Thanatos as it sweeps us under its wings, making us relinquish control in every form. Feeling that. It leaves a mark of ash upon our heart, signifying we have touched the cusp of the underworld and will return to the land of the living eventually with more compassion and wisdom to share. This capacity is needed in our world. One who has faced the annihilation of Thanatos can face anything. When this card appears, it signifies an initiation into the underworld. Okay, well, we kind of, I'm just looking here, we kind of have that actually because we've had Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio for ages. She's at 29 degrees. And we have the Sun, the Moon, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Black Moon Lilith, and Chiron all in the 20s. And most of them are like 28, 29 degrees. So we're moving out of cycles. And then we have a few of the outer planets. In fact, most of the other planets, there's a couple like Mars and Pluto, I guess only two, which are at the very beginning of the new signs. And Uranus goes into back into Gemini. Remember, Uranus went retrograde into Taurus. Goes back into Gemini on, I don't know. Shoot, I forgot to look that up. I did look up when Jupiter moves into Leo, which is July of 2026, and Chiron moves into Taurus in June of 2026. So next summer, this coming summer, I think we're going to feel less of an emotional burden, and we're going to stop, probing that wound. I can't wait for that, truly. Anyway, so we start off with, we're facing the death of something. Now, this doesn't have to be like the death of a person, because with Saturn and Neptune at the end of Pisces, until January and February, we're all moving out of a major cycle here. So this is we're all facing the end of something, I'm guessing. That's interesting. I just noticed there's a face there. It kind of looks like Mother Mary. Anyway, interesting. It's at the center of a spider web, too. I guess life is kind of like a woven tapestry. I don't know. So we're starting off with the knowledge that things must die. In order for us to have new growth, there has to be death. So we're starting off with that. Then I drew a card I have not seen before called the Pilgrim. Now that sounds positive, so I looked it up. And this really, I almost said reeks. This really sounds like, I have to use this for the italics. Sounds like the Sagittarius energy. Learns, grows, adapts, and studies. That's when it's light. When it's dark, it's aloof, non-committal, and flaky. Not that a Sagittarius could ever be flaky. Sorry. I have a lot of Sagittarius energy, or I would not say that, but I'd say they're more blunt than flaky, actually. Okay. I find Sagittarius energy to be very, that's something I need to mention, is that when Mercury's in Sagittarius, your communications, watch out for that, because Sagittarius is very honest. Very, very honest. So is Aries. But they can both be a little bit blunt, because Sagittarius will speak the truth and nothing but the truth. So there's that aspect to it too that I didn't really think of. But it's about wanting the truth, even if it offends other people, even if they don't like it, yeah. Mercury's going to look at things honestly. Okay, it says, for the pilgrim, an outward journey is always an inward journey. This archetypal wanderer seeks wisdom, experience, and meaning in the farthest reaches of the globe and the deepest regions of the spirit. That is Sagittarius energy. Others will wonder when the pilgrim will settle down and claim a more conventional life, but the pilgrim knows that the heart belongs in motion. Where there is motion, there is freedom, expansion, and growth. Gosh, that's Jupiter right there in Sagittarius. Responsibilities, social conventions, and logistics lull us to sleep, and soon the pilgrim becomes veiled in the slumber of the day-to-day. Yet when this archetype awakens, it rallies our sense of adventure and leads us out the door toward a new reality. With the pilgrim at your side, you will never lack courage, nor do you need every amenity. Travel light, travel soon. Your spirit needs it. Ooh, I like that. I like that. Okay. So, when we let go of the old, we get a new adventure. Here it comes. Walking down the street. Okay. And then I drew the warrior. I might have drawn this once. I'm not sure if I've just seen it or if I've had it in a reading, but I don't recognize. This is interesting in view of that aspect called Thor's hammer, because, the hammer that he wields, it's the hammer of truth. So it's ultimately for growth, but it knocks things down. So we have a weapon here, sort of. Come on, can you focus? No, I can't read it without it focusing, because, okay, can I see this? Fierce, this is when it's light. Fierce clarity, purposeful action, resolve, and resilience. When it's dark, threats, savagery, abandoning mission and values. Okay. This says, we often envision the warrior as an armored figure with sword in hand moving blindly toward battle. Yet the deeper aspects of this archetype bring us face to face with death itself. Now we're back to death again. The warrior stands precariously at the edge of life and death, trusting the eternal to guide the sword's blade. The warrior's work requires presence, alignment, and purpose. If and when the warrior loses its center, meaningless confrontations and violence are their default response. When this card appears, it is important to question the battle at hand. It is likely a great one with deep roots and long-standing tensions. Yes, the actions you take will stay with you long after the dust settles, so choose wisely, brave one. As you draw your sword, realign with the eternal wisdom within, then surrender to the battle. Okay, so we do have a battle here with this Thor's hammer, and I think the wisdom within is represented by Mercury in Sagittarius. Mercury is, is a truth seeker anyway, but especially in Sagittarius. So we have this aspect that's saying, look closely, look bluntly, look bravely, and then adjust your thinking and your purpose accordingly. What do you need? Where have you been wounded, and what do you need to, see, we're flanked on either side. We got the warrior, we've got death. This is the death of the old. Okay, makes way for the adventure. This is what we can reap from this time period with all these planets at the tail end of the signs, and Neptune at the very last degree of the zodiac, soon to be followed by Saturn there, I think at the end of December or whenever, or no, I think in January, because I think he moves into Aries a little bit after Neptune does. Do I have that written down? No, somewhere. I need a central notebook. I have too many. Okay, anyway. So this is our reward. This is the opportunity. Okay, but in order to get it, we've got to let go of the old. And so I think I see this blade. They're talking about the sword of truth, or Thor's hammer, whatever you want to call it. This is where we decide what stays and what goes, and what our true purpose is, and what's the meaning of, with all this childhood stuff blended in with Chiron in Aries, the wounded healer in Aries, and Jupiter in Cancer, our emotional selves. I just feel like it's getting to the bottom of, why do I think this way? Why do I interpret my life this way? Why do I feel like, with Mars in Capricorn, why do I feel like I'm saddled with this Is it really my responsibility? Isn't my first responsibility to myself, to my life? I don't know, but there's a big decision here. There's a battle going on where we're deciding, what does it mean to close out the old cycle? How thoroughly do we do that? And what do we take with us when we go? And what do we do battle with? What's stopping us? What's holding us back? I love that he's got like a diamond in his third eye in gold. That's really neat. And the snake, of course, which sheds its skin and represents rebirth. And of course it, was the symbol of the goddess before patriarchy took over. We were talking about the transition from matriarchy to patriarchy in my book club tonight. And anyway, but this, there's a danger here of this triggering some anger. And I'm not as anti-anger as a lot of people, because I think sometimes anger can serve a purpose. To me, it's like it said in the description of the card, it's how you wield the sword that matters. I think anger can be called for, especially when someone or something you love is threatened. And the warrior is, Aries energy, Mars energy. And Mars just moved into Capricorn, as I said. So And Chiron's in Aries. So anyway, this is about doing battle with whatever is keeping you stuck. As it said in the book, lulling us to sleep with the day-to-day. We don't have to stop there. We can have an adventure. But, you know, it says travel light, take few amenities. That sounds really good to me. I've been feeling like being a gypsy for a while, and I'm not sure how to pull it off, but that sounds good. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting, and I will try to post. Tomorrow I'm having a root canal, so I hope I'll be able to post tomorrow night. I hate dental things more than anything. Not more than anything. There are other things I hate worse, but like physically I don't like that. Anyway, so I hope I'll feel like it. If not, I will do it the next night. But the full moon occurs on the 19th at, I always puts this in those, let's see, that would be 8:43 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S. So if you're, you know, in a different time zone, it could be on the 20th for you. Which still mixing me up because that's just me, never mind. Because you guys get it first. If you're in Europe or, you know, way east of me, you get it first. So it seems to me like it would be the 18th, but it's already the 20th. I can't get that through my thick head. Anyway, okay. Leave me a comment. Let me know how this resonates. I will try to post for the new moon because it's going to be a really interesting one. And thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons. And I will talk to you tomorrow, I hope. Blessings. Good night.